Imagine waking up tomorrow to a financial landscape utterly transformed, not by the long-awaited revaluation you've been praying for, but by a silent, structural earthquake that has just rendered every previous prediction, every rumor, and every piece of insider gossip completely and utterly obsolete. This is not a drill. The Central Bank of Iraq has just detonated a strategic shift so profound, so meticulously engineered, that it has fundamentally altered the very bedrock upon which the future value of the Iraqi dinar will be built. And if you are holding dinar right now, your entire understanding of this investment is about to be rewritten in a language you were never taught to read. The alert is not just a headline, it is a seismic warning that the ground beneath your financial feet has already begun to shift. And the tremors you are feeling are merely the prelude to a complete tectonic realignment of Iraq's monetary policy, a move that has deliberately bypassed the speculative frenzy of the RV and instead laid down a cold, hard and unemotional framework designed for one purpose and one purpose only: to finally, after decades of chaos, impose order. For years, the narrative has been controlled by hope, a fragile commodity traded in online forums and shadowy conference calls. But today, that narrative has been seized by the architects of the economy themselves, and they have replaced whispers with policy, dreams with directives, and speculation with a stark new reality that does not care about your expectations. The central bank's new exchange framework is not merely a tweak to the existing system. It is a scorched earth policy against the very inefficiencies and vulnerabilities that have plagued the Iraqi dinar, a deliberate and surgical strike on the black market pipelines, the currency manipulation schemes, and the devastating dollar dependency that has strangled the nation's economic sovereignty for far too long. Picture the old system as a sieve, where billions of dollars leaked out through corruption and sanctions-era loopholes, a system where the official rate was a ghost, a theoretical number dwarfed by the shadowy, powerful black market rate that truly dictated the cost of living for millions of Iraqis, a chaotic duality that bled the country's reserves dry and made a mockery of any attempt at financial stability. This was the ecosystem in which your dinar existed, a currency trapped in a cage of its own dysfunction, its potential value shackled not by a lack of national wealth, but by a critically flawed mechanism for exchanging it with the outside world. The new framework is that cage being shattered with the cold precision of a master locksmith. This is the moment the referees have finally decided to change the rules of the game while the game is still being played, because they realized the old rules were designed to make the house lose. And the house, in this case, is the entire nation of Iraq and every single person who has staked their financial future on its currency. The shocking truth they don't want you to fully grasp just yet is that this is not the culmination of the dinar story. This is the brutal, necessary prologue, the unglamorous groundwork that had to be laid before any talk of true revaluation could ever be taken seriously in the hallowed halls of international finance. The world's major financial institutions, the ones with the power to legitimize a currency, were not going to touch the dinar with a 10-foot pole as long as its exchange mechanism was a leaky, opaque, and easily manipulated relic of a war-torn past. They needed proof of maturity, proof of stability, and most importantly, proof of control. This new framework is that proof. It is Iraq's formal application to rejoin the global economic stage, and it is written in the only language that international bankers understand, the language of transparency, structured process, and unassailable data. So as you hear this, if you feel a knot in your stomach, that is the sensation of the unknown, because the comfortable, familiar cycle of rumor and disappointment has just been violently interrupted by a cold, hard dose of institutional reality. The waiting game as you knew it is over. It has been replaced by an implementation game, and the stakes have just been raised from speculative daydreams to the measurable, trackable success or failure of a national economic strategy. This was the silent war being waged behind the headlines you've been reading, a war not for a specific number, but for the very right to have that number be taken seriously. And the Central Bank of Iraq has just fired the most significant shot in that war, a shot that echoes not with the sound of celebration, with the sobering silence of a chessboard after a grandmaster has made a move that his opponent is only just beginning to understand. So, what is this revolutionary framework, and why does its sheer architectural genius signal a point of no return for the dinar that no simple revaluation announcement could ever hope to achieve? Let's pull back the curtain on this financial masterstroke, a system so elegantly brutal in its design that it systematically strangles the life out of the old chaos while simultaneously building a new digital fortress for the currency's future. The cornerstone of this entire operation, the element that should make every astute investor sit bolt upright, the ruthless eradication of the black market's oxygen supply, the physical U.S. Dollar cash, the central bank of Iraq, has effectively declared war on the greenback in its physical form, systematically forcing all major financial transactions, from international trade to bank settlements, onto a pristine, transparent, and centrally controlled digital platform where every single dinar, every single dollar is now accounted for, tracked, and stripped of its anonymity. This is not just a policy shift, it is a hostile takeover of the shadow economy. Imagine a world where the corrupt middleman, the smuggler, and the currency manipulator suddenly find their hands empty because the physical cash they relied upon to operate in the shadows is being deliberately phased out of the legitimate financial system, rendered useless for large-scale transactions and replaced by digital entries in a secured ledger that is monitored by the central bank in real time. This is the core of the new framework, a digital siege designed to starve the parasites that have been feeding on the Iraqi economy for decades. But the genius doesn't stop there. The second pillar of this new era is the calculated and dynamic management of the exchange rate itself, moving it away from a static, politically sensitive number and towards a more fluid, market-reflective value that is allowed to breathe within a tightly controlled band. A move that signals a breathtaking confidence from a central bank that was previously terrified of any fluctuation. This is them finally taking the training wheels off, demonstrating to the world that the Iraqi dinar is mature enough to handle the subtle pressures of supply and demand without collapsing, crucial test of strength that must be passed before any international institution will even consider it a serious, stable currency. They are essentially conducting a controlled stress test on their own monetary system, and the initial results are already staggering, with the gap between the official rate and the black market rate narrowing not because of police raids, but because of pure, unadulterated financial engineering that has made the black market increasingly irrelevant. The third and most profound element, the one that connects the dinar directly to the global financial bloodstream, is the strategic network of correspondent banking relationships the central bank is now aggressively forging with financial powerhouses in Jordan, the UAE, Turkey, and even Europe, creating a web of international trust and liquidity that bypasses the old suspicious channels. This means that for the first time in modern history, an Iraqi bank can now clear an international transaction in a foreign currency through a reputable partner in, say, Abu Dhabi, with the full faith and credit of the Iraqi central bank backing it. A level of integration and credibility that was unimaginable just 2 years ago. This is the dinar earning its passport, slowly being invited back in the exclusive club of globally traded currencies, a process far more significant than a one-off value change. Think of it this way: the new framework is not a single key that unlocks the vault of revaluation. It is the complete blueprint for building a new, impregnable vault altogether, one that meets international security standards. The old system was a dilapidated shed with a rusty lock, and everyone was just waiting for someone to come along and announce that the treasure inside was now worth a fortune. But the new framework is a Fort Knox being constructed around that shed, with laser alarms, armed guards, and an international banking certificate on the wall. And the treasure inside hasn't even been touched yet, but its perceived value has already multiplied 1,000-fold simply because of the security and legitimacy of its new environment. They are building the container before worrying about the contents, understanding that the value of the contents is entirely dependent on the strength and credibility of the container itself. This is the grand deception, the sleight of hand that most observers are missing. They are so focused on the final number, the RV, that they are blind to the monumental achievement happening right in front of them: the creation of a modern, credible, and transparent monetary system, which is the only foundation upon which a sustainable, internationally recognized revaluation can ever truly be built. So, the monumental question now crashing onto the shore of every dinar holder's mind is this terrifying and exhilarating thought: what does this meticulously constructed financial fortress actually mean for the value of the currency sitting in your safe? And is this the long prophesied trigger for the revaluation? Or is it something far more strategically complex that demands a complete and immediate recalibration of your entire investment strategy? Let's be brutally honest and clear the fog of war. This new framework is not the revaluation event itself, and to expect an announcement of a skyrocketing value tomorrow is to miss the entire point of what has been built. This framework is, however, the single most credible and tangible prerequisite for that revaluation ever happening, the foundational bedrock upon which any future legitimate value increase must now be constructed, making it simultaneously the most bullish development in the history of the Iraqi dinar and a cold bucket of water on the flames of immediate speculative fantasy. The shocking reality you must confront today that the Central Bank of Iraq has just made your investment infinitely more legitimate, while also making the path to cashing out more dependent on measurable economic progress and less on political whims or mysterious overnight announcements. The direct impact on you, the holder, is a double-edged sword of unparalleled promise and sobering responsibility. On one edge, the systemic risks that have plagued the dinar for decades, the hyperinflationary black market rates, the crippling dollar liquidity crisis, the international isolation are being surgically removed, thereby increasing the intrinsic, fundamental stability of your asset in a way that no rumor ever could. But the other edge of that sword is that the days of passive waiting are irrevocably over. The value of your dinar is now directly tied to the successful implementation and international acceptance of this very framework, meaning you are no longer just a speculator waiting for a lottery number. You have become a stakeholder in the economic rehabilitation of a nation, and your investment's fate is now hitched to a series of real-world trackable metrics. You must now watch for the narrowing spread between the official and market rates. You must monitor the quarterly reports on Iraq's foreign currency reserves. You must follow the announcements of new correspondent banking partnerships. These are the new vital signs of your investment, and they are publicly available data, not secret messages from anonymous gurus. This transforms your position from one of blind faith to one of informed strategy, empowering you with knowledge but also burdening you with the need for vigilance. The potential for life-changing wealth is no longer a matter of if, but a matter of when and how sustainably, and that how is the critical factor that should dominate your thinking now. A sudden massive revaluation imposed on a weak system would have been a spectacular but short-lived firework, likely collapsing under the weight of its own instability and the ensuing economic shock. But a gradual, managed appreciation built upon the rock-solid foundation of this new digital framework, however, is the slow, steady, and unstoppable dawn of a new financial day, one that can create lasting generational wealth rather than a brief, chaotic spike. This is the ultimate purpose of the central bank's grand design, to ensure that when the dinar's value rises, it does so with the full confidence of the global financial community, and it stays risen, cementing Iraq's place on the world stage and rewarding those who had the foresight to see the blueprint through the rubble. This is your moment of reckoning, a pivotal crossroads where you must decide whether to be swept away by the outdated tides of speculation or to align your strategy with the new, transparent reality that the central bank itself has laid bare. The information age for the dinar has officially begun, and in this age, knowledge is not just power, it is profit. The silent war is over, the public campaign for economic legitimacy has begun, and your role in it has just been activated. Do not be a passive spectator to the most important chapter of this story. Therefore, the most critical step you can take right now is to ensure you are on the front lines of this financial transformation with a source you can trust. This is a fast-moving, complex situation where outdated information becomes worthless overnight. We are committed to dissecting every central bank announcement, analyzing every fluctuation in the exchange rate, and providing you with clear, unbiased analysis that turns complex policy into actionable understanding. If you are serious about protecting and ultimately realizing the potential of your investment, you cannot afford to be in the dark. Subscribe to the channel right now, hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and let us be your guided intelligence through this historic monetary shift. Your financial future is being rewritten as we speak. Make sure you have the right translator.